Hi, this is Esther Camacho, and welcome to another Quarantine Genealogy. Today we'll discuss cemetery research and visiting a cemetery. Now, there are different types of cemeteries out there. I've got four examples here. There are private cemeteries. Now, these are normally family-owned cemeteries that are out there on a ranch or their own personal property, and they're normally small. We also have church cemeteries, and you'll have the cemetery right there next to the church. You still see this, but you also see church cemeteries in a different location, and you can tell by its name, St. Patrick's Catholic Cemetery, uh, as their name, and you'll know that it's from the Catholic Church. Now, we also have public cemeteries. Now, these are for-profit cemeteries. Now, they're out there as well, and they are the normally ones that will advertise in the newspaper or on TV about their cemetery. Municipal cemeteries, now these range from your city cemeteries all the way to your national cemeteries, your military veteran cemeteries. Some basics of cemetery research. We're going to go over locating a cemetery, visiting a cemetery, some do's and don'ts, some symbolism that you'll see on some of the markers, and some online resources for cemeteries. Now, a process that you normally go through is you're going to check for a death certificate, see what information's there. From there, then you'll go look and see if you can find something in the newspaper, an obituary or a death notice. Sometimes you'll find a news article if that person died in a car accident or some sort of accident. Then you'll have a separate article just for that, not an obituary. And from there, you look at that information and you want to find out who the funeral home is that's handling that service. And if nothing else, you can always go to City Hall and Courthouse to look at their records and see what they have, and then go from there to the cemetery. Now, like I said, first you're going to have to look at the death record. You're going to read each line carefully, and you want to look for the cemetery date of burial and who the undertaker is. And that's normally going to be on the bottom of the death certificate. Now, I zoomed it up here, and you will see there that it shows line number 18 says burial, cremation, or removal. And it says Collins Cemetery and the date of burial, October 16th, and this is, I believe, 1935. And the undertaker is very important because this is where you will see the funeral home listed. In this case, it is the family. So there was no funeral home here, as the family took care of it themselves. And when you look at an obituary, again, you're going to look at it closely to look for the date, the funeral home, the church, the cemetery, and it's going to tell you right there. They had the service at Juan Gonzalez Funeral Home and went to the Sacred Heart Church with the burial at Holy Cross Cemetery. So you've got all that information right there in the obituary. So when you visit a cemetery, the first thing you want to do is look for an office and see who's there. And request a map if they have one available. In this case, sometimes if it's a small cemetery, you can make your own. That way you can document where your loved ones are buried. Once you request that map, if they give it to you, great. Make copies, scan it, and save it. Request a search in their records. Ask them, hey, I'm looking for this person. What do you have in your records? You can ask them if they can give you more information. You can get like a cemetery card that will tell you who it was, uh, who paid for it, what plot it is, all that information. So you can ask for that. If you need more information, if you're not being very successful especially at a cemetery, especially if you're looking for a person and they don't have a marker, or people don't have any information. The death certificate didn't have much, because you will have some death certificates that don't have any information about where the burial happened. Try the city hall, see what they have. Look for their death records, see if they have any additional information. Check any of your local historical societies and see if they've done some surveys in the cemeteries and see what information they might have. Check your local library for any books on local cemeteries. When you go out and you're locating a grave, cemeteries are usually divided by section, rows, and plots. And the placement is usually, but not always, it's usually east to west. But you can go to a cemetery and you'll see people at all different directions. Download a cemetery checklist and use that to record your findings. That's where you can actually sketch out what the cemetery looks like, who the neighbors are, any information on the marker, and that's just for you. Some do's and don'ts. Do take detailed notes. That's where that checklist comes in handy. Write down the name, dates, the decorations that are on there. If you want to measure it out, get the size and any inscriptions that are written on there. But do watch out for snakes, holes, and trees. Check your surroundings very carefully. I have been traveling and visiting cemeteries, and one day I was there with a caretaker, and we were looking for an individual, and I was walking, looking at the names, and he grabs me and he says, "Stop." He goes, "You're about to step into a grave that's already sunk, so be very careful." Do take pictures. Take one up close at the marker, and then back away so you can get people around that marker, and go further back and take a panoramic view of that location. If you do have to pull out some flowers, please put them back once you've taken your photo. Uh, do not attempt a rubbing if the stone is not stable. Sometimes you'll see some very fragile stones out there. Those are the ones you do not want to do a rubbing on, because you're going to cause more damage. Your best bet on that is to probably get a spray bottle of water and spray it to where it's a little dark and take a picture before it dries up. And do not trust your memory. Make sure that you're writing everything down. Some symbolisms that you will see on some of the markers. You'll see hands. They signify mortality or sudden death. A bird means peace or messenger of God. Broken buds, and these are just hanging down, is someone who died in an untimely death. That's just what it means. Some people I know that do that. I look at their death certificate, they didn't die an untimely death. They had been sick for a while. Uh, but it basically means that they died an untimely death. Drapery means mourning. You do see these are some of the large markers that are out there, where you'll see it all draped up. And that just means that the family is mourning the loss of their loved one. And if you look on the top of this, on this type of the cross on this marker, you'll see etched in there IHS, which stands for Jesus Christ. It's actually a Greek symbol. But you do see this out there on markers. This one has leaves on there, meaning like forever growing in memory. It's actually a very beautiful marker. Again, those broken buds means that it's someone who died an untimely death. And to me, I always think that that also might mean they're mourning that person. They're very sad that they're gone. Some online resources for cemeteries. Now, you will see quite a few out there. Find a Grave is the most popular. There is Billions Grave. The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs has a national grave locator if you're going to look for a veteran. They will be there, whether that veteran is buried in a veteran cemetery or in a private cemetery. Wherever they're buried, it's going to tell you. Interment.net is also another free cemetery records online that you can search. US GenWeb Tombstone Project is also another one that lists some cemetery surveys. Cemeteries of Texas by Gloria Mayfield. This is a volunteer submissions that were put out there. It's actually very good that have surveys as well of different cemeteries in Texas. Things to remember. Please be safe when you're out there. Do look at your surroundings. Um, Look ahead before you take a step. Look around to see if there's other individuals around there too. Be respectful if you think that there's going to be a burial coming. Please get out of the way. You don't want to get stuck in there. Um, and let people mourn and be with their loved ones out there. Enjoy the history. There is a lot of history in cemetery, and you're digging up history out there on your loved ones. So please enjoy it. It is actually very fascinating to get to the final process or the ends of the life of that person that you're researching. So thanks for watching. And next time on Quarantine Genealogy, let's go over FamilySearch.org. This is Esther Camacho with the McAllen Public Library. You have a wonderful day. Goodbye.